As the Apostle John wrote, he who fears is not made perfect in love. And then all these people are like, oh, well, no one's perfect, and that's just their continual excuse for not doing the will of God, you know, because all we have to do is submit ourselves to God and resist the devil and he'll flee from us, as James said, and it's not us doing it. Paul says the Spirit of God that we're sealed with, if indeed the Spirit of God dwells in you, and if he doesn't dwell in you, you're none of his. He says, the Spirit of God is the one that sheds abroad the love of God in our heart. That's a fruit of the Spirit. That's not a fruit of the flesh. Jesus wasn't made perfect until he was risen from the dead. The writer of Hebrews said, that Jesus, though he were a son, yet learned the obedience by the things that he suffered. And having been made perfect, he became the initiator of eternal salvation to as many as obey him. If you're not willing to surrender your will, because as Paul said, Romans 8:13, if we live according to the flesh, we will die. But if we, through the Holy Spirit, put to death the deeds of the body, we shall live. And then Galatians 5:16, he says, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you won't carry out the desires of the flesh. For the flesh envies against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and the two are contrary, where you cannot do what you desire. But if you be led of the Spirit, you're under no law. You're under no condemnation, like Romans 8:1 says in a legitimate translation. This is a work of the Holy Spirit. Look at Jesus on the eve of his crucifixion. The writer of Hebrews says, who in the days of his flesh, when he'd offered up prayers with strong cryings with tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard, and that he feared. Look at Luke, he gives testimony. The gospel accounts give testimony that Jesus offered the same prayer 3 times. Father, all things are possible with you. If it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Luke says he sweated as it were great droplets of blood. He cried with such intensity.